So this is a quick introduction to Visual Studio Express 2012 for Windows Desktop. We're going to dive straight in and create a Hello World application, which is your first program that you write on the course. So we come down, we'll click on New Project. It's a good idea generally, by the way, to go and explore the menu items and see what's available within a system, but we'll go straight in. It's going to be Visual Basic, which is what we want. We want it to be Windows. We're going to go with the console application, and we're going to call it Hello World. And click OK. I'm not going to do that because I already created one called Hello World earlier, but then my machine was running rather too slowly. So Hello World 2. And Hello World really is a very simple thing, but it gives us a chance to have a look at a couple of aspects. There's an object, a class created by Microsoft, which allows you to write things to a console window. If you're not sure what a console window is, you'll see fairly soon. So we access it by calling it console, and you'll see that this list of different possibilities for what it thinks I might be typing come up, the IntelliSense. Hovering over there, we can see that a console represents the standard input and output, and I didn't do it quickly enough, so if I do that again, and error streams for console applications, and the class cannot be inherited. It doesn't just do the streams, it actually produces the console window on the screen as well. So console dot, now want to write something to it, so here we go, we want to write line, and we get options here of what we can do. You'll see there are 18 different options. Again, it's worth pausing. These arrows let us scroll through to see what options there are. We're going to use a string in this case, which is a piece of text delimited by the quote marks. It doesn't actually matter what it says down here at the time of when we're typing, we can have it on there. Because what we're actually putting in is the string. So that is a very basic Hello World first program. When we run that using debugging, we can use the start button here, or we can go to the debug menu and use start debugging. You'll see that's the same as F5. I normally use F5 when programming. Well, the other option is to run without debugging. Now, generally speaking, I would use with debugging. Use F5 when you're doing your programming. Just for the first time, I'm going to do it without debugging, and we'll see that a console window comes up in just a moment when it's finished compiling it. Ooh, it's gone off your screen. It says Hello World and press any key to continue. Now the press any key to continue is when it's run, not in debugging mode. So if I press return there, if I run it in debugging mode, this is the only downside of debugging mode, but let me show you it. I'll click here rather than pressing F5 this time. Did you see that? It very quickly disappears because it's not attached to anything at the end. So what we can do there is we can ask it to wait for some input. There's a number of different read options. We've got read key, read line, and they all do slightly different things. So you'll see here that read, we would have done if I was slightly quicker, read returns an integer, so it's returning a sort of key code. Read key returns a thing called a system console key info, which we might have a look at in another video, and read line returns a string. Now the problem is, from my perspective, I just want to press one key. Now if it returns a string, it means we've got to allow it to put in several characters and then press return. Similarly, in fact, read does the same. But if we use read key, it will just take a single, it's like a key press basically. So if I run that again, it's now sitting waiting. If I press any key at all, or press H, it disappears. Now, it's worth knowing that read key is a function, it returns a value. but what we've done here is ignore it, so we haven't put it anywhere, so that value is thrown away. So we're treating a function like a subroutine. That's a perfectly valid thing to do, but what we can also do is capture that value, and this is where I've got to go back over read key to remind myself what it returns. Oh no! It's a console as a console key info. That's the one. Equal to. Now what we've done there, dim is the way of declaring a variable in Visual Basic. Result is the name of the variable, so our variable name is result. As is another keyword which just says that it's going to be a particular type. And console key info is a fairly esoteric type that's related to the read key. And just for interest's sake, I'm going to show you some debugging as well. So I'll stick in here another console.writeline. This is really just going in as something that I can put a debugging statement on, a break point on. So I'm going to show what the result is on the screen, but I'm also going to press F9 there, which will just let me show you the debugging. So again, I'm going to start with debugging, so F5. That's got hello world. I'm going to press the, the F key. And you'll see that that has now come out and stopped on this line. I pressed F9 to create this. I could have also clicked in the margin here to turn a debugging breakpoint on or off. What I really wanted to show you here is that I can then use watches to see what's going on. So it's automatically down here as a local variable. We can see that the key I pressed is the F key. The capital F is because that's the ASCII code for the main character class, but it knows that the actual character was the lowercase one. I can also hover over it and open up that with the little plus sign. I don't need to click on that, it just opens when I hover. And I can also, if I right click on there, do things like add a quick watch. It brings up a slightly less fiddly window to manipulate and see what's going on. From here, if I want, I can add a watch, which is like the local window we just had. I can also add a watch this way. Those allow us to keep an eye on what variables are doing when our program runs. I'll just press return. So make it carry on with F5. So that is a very quick run through. It's included a very small bit about how to put breakpoints in and debug your program. Most of these two lines actually aren't necessary for a hello world, but it's interesting to have a play around and see what the system can do for you and what you need to do to make it behave the way you want. So explore that idea, have a go at doing the rest of the things on the tutorial sheet when you're in class or indeed at home, and enjoy playing with Visual Basic.